Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to a Wolfram language design review. We are talking about hierarchical entities, and I think we've already had one meeting in this series, right? Um,
Briefly got your head wrapped around the large concepts we're trying to deal with, but we didn't really have time to delve into it more deeply. So yes.
the um, okay. Uh, all right. So why don't you start? Walk me through this. So we
Oh,
have here this idea of hierarchical types, right?
yes. The idea is to introduce a new kind of type, a property source type that hovers above our existing entity types and supplies common properties to them.
Yep. Okay, but so wait a minute. But you're also talking about entity source types.
Yes, entity source types are those which we've had since the beginning.
What do you mean? What?
For instance, a country or a person, those are entity source types.
But why is the? I mean, but we also have hierarchies in that as well. I mean, like a person versus a painter or something.
Yes, for that we introduced child types. Those are subsets of entity source types with additional properties. So that was a few years ago.
So wait a minute. Where are we using that? Is that fully
Mhm.
running now?
Yes, so if you scroll down just a little bit, then we can see species. In species, we have a lot of child types. So that was the first large domain where we used them. So those are the
So
gray
what does that
dots.
look like? If I want to get, so I haven't really used this. Wait a minute. I don't understand this. I didn't think this was how this was working. I mean, if I say something like,
This
okay,
is the thing that we had previous meetings about and design live
okay,
streams
so
and
if
everything and was
if
released.
okay, so if I say platypus here, right, I'm getting that. Oh, do I want to evaluate the initialization?
Yes,
Okay, all right. So this is a platypus. It's a happy platypus, I hope. And if I look at the input form, I see species. So where do I
exactly.
see the fact that it's a mammal or whatever it is?
Yes, you can. There's a property called entity type list, which lists all of the types that it's a member of.
Okay, but if I now say entity type, if I say random entity, and then I say bird 5, what the hell? How is this supposed to work? I want a random bird from here.
Yes,
How do I get
so
that?
the entity specification for the child types is a little bit longer. It's always a sequence of rules. Hmm.
I'm not buying this. What do I do to get a random bird?
Maybe control equal birds.
No, I don't want to do that. I want to do that here. How do I mean,
Okay,
the
then it would be yeah.
if I do this, what do I get? I don't get the right thing here. I get again this, right?
Maybe check the three dots.
My God. What is that? That's not useful. Species phyletic group. What the hell's that? This is not useful. I mean, this is really not working well. I thought what we were doing is you show me a picture like this. I'm assuming that I can get to these child types and do things with them, right? How do I do this? Tell me how this works. Do I do species, arrow, something or other?
Taxonomic species, arrow, eukaryote, your arrow, animal. And we don't allow just bare rules in random entity, rather than entity class, comma all.
Nah, I'm not buying this. Nobody's ever going to be able to use this. All right, we got to fix this, right? Is there any good reason why we do not support just the name bird, meaning all of that stuff?
We could, but at the moment we do the scoping because, at least in theory, we could have child types of the same name in different entity
In
source
theory,
types.
we could, but in practice, we can disambiguate it, just like we're disambiguating with this skunk.
So would just autocompletion using BERT be okay, or would we want a new syntax?
I think it should just work with, I mean, I think we should have a much longer list of these obvious child entity types, okay? And not have some crazy thing here, right? That nobody's ever going to be able to use. Right? That's what I think. I think that we should figure out what it will take. How many of these sub entity types have we actually introduced so far?
Taxonomic
Where this
species.
is actively being used.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, what about people? I thought we were going to do this for people.
No, we discussed people as a theoretical place we could do it, but there's also the problem of there could be a, if not infinite, a also uselessly large number of sub things that could expand
Right.
out
So we
into.
need some kind of ontology.
Yeah.
And, I think we need, I mean, I don't know that, we're not going to go full BLS, so to speak, job classifications. But we do have categories of people where we have a lot of data about them. Right. I
We do,
doubt
and we have a lot of data related to occupations where we've normalized those things for some thousands of different occupations, even not touching on BLS stuff, just going through sort of
Yeah.
Wikipedia groupings and other things.
Okay. But I mean, I think to be useful here, the world's a finite place. Okay. So, we shouldn't use up a name that seriously could be used for something else. But, the number of times when this is going to be ambiguous, I think, is rather small. And I think we can find a way to deal with it. And I think we should have something where we use all, I think at this point, the rate of growth of sub entity types is rather small. Am I making sense? So I don't see why we shouldn't just expose them in this way. I mean, would you put in the chat, please, what the actual syntax is for this random entity thing?
Yeah.
I feel pretty strongly about this. I mean, this is something where I've never used it. I've wanted these things many times. I haven't known how to do it. It's like dead meat as far as I'm concerned. I don't. If I look in the documentation, will I find it there? I bet I won't. Not even close. This is pathetically thin documentation, which is also bad, and please fix it. But it's not even close to being able to do this here, right? I have no idea how I'm supposed to do this from this. Tony, can you comment on that, please?
Yes, working on that.
Okay, by the way, that's a bug.
The
Somebody
example.
could please support please report that bug. This is 14.4 bug. Do you see the bug?
Yep.
Okay, the fact that you're still working on this example is an even worse sign. Okay, let's not build something that's unusable. Okay, let's fix this and make it usable. And hopefully that will be rather easy to do because we have a limited set of things that we've implemented this for. We just have to expose the right parts of them. Do you have this yet?
At the moment.
Why does it take so long? Why is this difficult? I mean, I thought this was supposed to be a usable piece of software. How can it be so difficult to do this? Sorry, I'm kind of annoyed. Okay, well, am I going to get this or does it just not work? Anybody else want to jump in here and
Tony,
bring up another
I
topic?
don't know.
This wasn't the topic of this meeting, so we need to get to the topic of this meeting. Tony, are you giving up on this? What's the story?
I
Oh,
just
no.
sent it in the chat.
That's more or less what you said it would be. What's that all doing there?
That just means blah. No.
I'm sorry?
That means a top class. The second argument is reserved for the names of entity class or conditions, and all just means, well, no condition.
Okay, but this is an entity class. This has nothing to do with the entity type.
Well,
Right?
that's the class of all entities of that particular type.
I mean, if Tony, if you just change that to the entity class to entity type and drop the all, it works just as well, doesn't it? Just
So
semantically, that
Keiko
makes more
just sent
sense to
through
me.
this.
Right.
That makes more sense. This makes a lot more sense to me. I don't understand this one. I mean, other than if I say here,
I mean, if you wanted to filter that further, that would make sense. But if you just want everything in that type, then that second one makes more sense.
So the idea is still to have some autocomplete. That means when in entity type or entity class you type bird, you would get the whole sequence of rules.
no, let's not do that. There's no reason to do that. It's just hostile. Let's do it so that we actually are using each of these things as an entity type. There's not going to be any harm in that. You know, they're decently disambiguated. If you really need to disambiguate them, you can use the whole sequence. But most of the time, you will never need that. And that way, we can actually have the things that people expect to work. Does that make sense?
Okay, that means we want to use those child types also as alias for the fuller form.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Let me know if there are any conflicts that seem like they're coming up. I doubt there will be. Does anybody else see a potential conflict there? Keiko, can you comment on this, please?
I don't see any immediate conflict
Okay.
here. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go on with the actual subject of this meeting. I just want to emphasize how important it is to not come up with these things which remind me tremendously of things like Sparkle that are completely unusable. Right? This is an unusable thing, which took you 10 minutes or something to figure out how to get it to work, Tony. That's not okay. Right? Let's not come up with things like this. All right, let's go on to the main subject of this meeting with that backdrop. Okay, what are we mostly talking about here?
So we have started with a couple of property source types, some examples as a proof of concept. And
Okay, but I want to know what's the big picture of what this is supposed to be doing.
So to start with, we extend the functionality of entity class to be able to query across different entity types.
I don't understand that.
For
I'm just
instance,
give me an example. Give me a real example here. I mean, let's say I say population. Population is an entity, is a property that can be applied to cities and countries. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about or not?
yes.
Okay. And so you're saying what about that? I mean,
Yeah.
right now the string population is a property of both city and country, right?
Yes. And the point is that population is just a short form.
Why is this not in? I wish you guys would have saved this somewhere. Okay, whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
Population is just a short form that can be used in certain contexts, notably next to an entity. And there it expands into an entity property, which needs a first argument.
I was not paying attention because where am I supposed to put this? Do we have a section for this? Entity framework. 2021 ontologies. Well, okay. All right. So I'm sorry. Now say what you were saying again.
So the string properties are just a short form for an entity property, which is at least two arguments, a type and a property.
Right. So this
And
is normally entity property of city, comma, population.
yes, and the same for country, population.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the idea is to introduce a new type for all the things that have a population, let's say populated place, and have just one type for that. That means we unify the different entity property forms into one canonical entity
No,
property.
that's not what it means. I mean, I'm sorry. That's no. Okay. So let's say New York, right? You're saying now that we're going to add types. New York right now is a city. You're saying we're going to add as a type populated place. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think it's the wrong way around. I think this is some type obsession thing. So then New York is going to have 50 types or something. Is that right?
Maybe 50, yeah. The idea is that then you can query across all populated
I understand, but I
places.
don't think you doing it with types is the right idea. I don't think. I think it's a bad idea. I mean, I think that the notion, no, types are the wrong approach to this, I think.
What are you proposing as an alternative? Because
I don't know.
this is the scheme that we had talked about with this when we were talking about species a long time ago. I mean, I don't know what the tail end of the species release process was, but we had talked about having parent types of things that would be like structure or, like Tony says, populated place or something else.
So in the entity framework, we're using the type to mean a name for a set of properties.
No, we're not. We're using it to mean a city, which is a thing. It's not a collection of properties. It's a thing in the world.
True.
Its properties are merely descriptors of that thing that we add to it. So let's not confuse these two things.
No, but then we're talking about things that are more abstract things.
Yes.
That share properties.
Okay, here's what we need to do. Let's not get this wrong. It's going to mess up a whole bunch of other things to get this wrong. One thing is a type that represents something about what that thing intrinsically is. Another is a type that represents something about which certain descriptors can be filled. And those are, I think, different concepts. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, like every physical thing has a mass, for example. But I don't think thing with a mass, it's a different kind of type of thing than a star or a piece of food or whatever else.
Yes.
Right? So I think we need to distinguish these essentially descriptor types or something, or property related types from the what it is type. Am I making sense? So we're not going to confuse bird as a type with, flying thing, so to speak. Thing with flying properties. Do you understand what I'm saying? People got this horribly wrong.
You'd want to be able to easily see the set of things that are all concrete things, and
Yes.
separately
Yes.
the set
People got
set of
this
things
horribly
that
wrong.
describe abstract concepts and sort of are the hierarchy of ways of classifying or grouping the attributes of those things.
People went bonkers with relational databases and then Sparkle and so on, of like, let's make everything a type, let's make everything relational, whatever. I think it's just wrong. I think it's just dumb, for these purposes. And I think it leads to the whole thing just turning into a pile of mush, which is what's happened to essentially all of those initiatives. So let's not repeat that mistake. Anyway, okay. So with that in mind, these are all things that we have identified. Some of them are a little bit questionable, but we've identified as things in the world, right? These types are things in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Entity with edges is not a thing in the world. Do you understand what I'm saying?
In the sense of graph not being a thing in the world.
No, graph is a thing. It's not something defined by its properties. Okay, it's not something where the main thing of interest about it is some property that it has. So, we've got a pretty good list of types of thing right now. Let's not break it. Am I making sense? To add this other layer of things which are linked together by common properties is another layer, and it should not be done with ordinary types. Does that make sense? Even though people do that in all these relational-based systems, it's a mistake.
So is astronomical object a thing or not?
Insofar as, species is a thing that then gets, that one is, I'm not thrilled about that one, but it's okay, I guess. Because it's okay. It's not my favorite.
Entity with edges is also not my favorite example because we are basically
No, it's a
lacking a
dumb
name.
thing. It's a dumb thing.
Yeah, we're lacking a name or a concept for it unless we
Right.
come up
It's a
with
dumb thing. So let's not do it. Let's have it be a different kind of thing. Right.
But we shouldn't get hung up on entity with edges because again, the set of things that are here are part of the whole proof of concept thing, and to look at what are some of the issues that we think it would exist with defining and naming and setting up the whole space of things that we might have like this. So don't think that entity with edges is somebody is sitting around thinking, here we go, this is the killer app for this.
Okay. I'm telling you, populated place is not we already have cities, countries, whatever else. They're great. Let's not break them. Let's have a different kind of thing, which is populated place thing, which is going to have certain, if I'm understanding correctly, there are banks of properties, correct?
Are you just reacting to the idea of any of these things having an entity or entity something head?
I'm reacting to the mush pile that you get when you go relational with everything, right? Which is basically to say, there aren't, concepts like city, like chemical, the fact that both have an area, let's say, right, they're very different kinds of things. And we've done well to distinguish those different kinds of things. We need to not mess that up. So the question is, as I understand it, there are things where they have there are properties like population, let's say, that things have in common. Am I right so far, Tony?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the question is, do you represent that commonality by saying all those things are of type populated place? How do you do that? How do you make those connections between population for city and population for country?
Yes, so practically if one says entity properties of city, at the moment we get only entity properties of type city, but then we would have other properties in there, let's say entity properties of populated place. The idea is that the one property can be used in different domains. The populated place property.
That's not a property. That's not a property. That's an entity type. Right? That's not a property. You're saying it would be entity property of populated place, population. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but that's not a property. Sorry, is that an entity type?
That first argument would be the property source type.
What's the relationship between a property source type and an entity type?
A property source type hovers above entity source types. Entity source types are defined as those
What's an
types.
entity source type? There's an entity
Yep.
type. I know what that is. What's
Mhm.
the difference between an
Yes.
entity type and an entity source type?
We introduced the idea of entity source type to have a better name for our entity types that existed since the beginning, like country or city.
Well, I think they're very happily called entity types. Why are we breaking that?
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
It's wrong. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you're
Then
saying this thing here is now a property source type. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. I mean,
So maybe a way to think about this, those entity properties, they are entities in some sense too, because they have properties themselves. For instance, the entity property of city, population. There's sub-value qualifiers. That means it has properties on its own in some sense. And then the question is, why do we need different entities in different domains? Or different
no, you're getting it wrong. I'm sorry. No, you are getting it wrong. We cannot make everything a relational mush pile, right? You do that if you're just making databases, right? We actually have the world as an anchor of what's out there. We're not just trying to make arbitrary stuff. We're trying to do things that relate to what is actually out in the world. Do you understand the distinction? I mean, we're not trying to make something where you can put an arbitrary relational collection of things that allow the possibility of having, fictional universes with all kinds of weird stuff in them. Do you know what I'm saying? We have an actual anchor of actual things in the world. So we need to not break that and just turn ourselves into a relational mush pile. Am I getting through on what the point here is? Maybe not.
So the anchors, as I see them, are the entities themselves.
They're
And
the entities with the types of the kind that we have right now.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And those don't change. What we are proposing with property source types is that we unify how to describe entities of different types without touching the entities themselves.
Okay, well then show me how that works. Show me something that's what am I seeing here? What should I look at here?
Let's say if we go to the time thing,
Yep.
that means the question that we can ask is all of those things that have a start date and end date, how do we call that? Well, it's a time interval. And then we can have an entity class, a computed entity class of type time interval. So give me everything that has a start somewhere.
That's not the useful way to think about it. Okay, so the issue is.
But if you check the entities that come out, if you show the tooltip, those are still entities of their correct below.
Well,
yeah, those are still entities of the correct type. So the entities are not affected. It's their description.
No, this is the wrong way around. Sorry. Look.
What is the other way around?
What we're trying to do here is to say historical period. It's got a start time, right? So does Music Act. Right now, those things are entity of there's an entity property of, let's say, historical period, start time, right? Start date. Okay. Meanwhile, we have, Music Act. Start date, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it isn't called start date. What's it called?
It's Music Act, not Music Arct.
Oh, well, good change. It'd be nice if that went red. Can somebody report that to the user assistance folk? Because it's clearly wrong. We have only a limited set of strings that can occur at the beginning of an entity property. So this should turn red. Somebody Ben, maybe you
Yep.
could report that. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the issue is, under what circumstances do we need to know that these are essentially comparable entity properties? Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
When do we need to know that? Because I mean, this thing, if we just look at the start date for something, it's going to be, it's going to just have some value that is a date. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when do we need to know that there's any connection between these?
In the context of entity classes, yeah. How would you specify, give me everything that started in 1990?
Okay. All right. But I don't understand. Okay, what's the relationship between time interval and things with time intervals? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
So what is
So,
it? Yeah, go
so
ahead.
if the second time interval in your phrase is a property, then it's basically equivalent to having a start and end date. Yeah. We could equally have a time interval property there in the time interval type.
What the heck is a time interval type? Why do we have a time interval type? Who's talking about a time interval type?
That's
Is
the
that
thing
an-
that's at the top of that graph there. That is a property source type that's gathering together all of the things that have that have some time interval associated with them, that have a start and an end date.
Okay, so this isn't an entity type.
Yeah. That's the new proposed property source type. Yeah.
But now what's this thing about populated places? What are those supposed to be?
It's the same kind of type, also a property source type.
No, that will be an entity source type, wouldn't it? A populated place is not like a time interval. A time interval, no, I'm totally confused. This isn't a property. Time interval is not a property. Time interval is a thing.
Nope.
It's not a property.
But time it represents a set of entities or entity types that share a set of properties that are related to that concept.
Yes, I know, but it isn't
right?
the right type of thing. A time interval is a time interval, from 10 BC to 1000 AD or something,
Sure, but events have time intervals, so it's also a property value.
Well, I don't think they should have time intervals. I think it shouldn't be called that. I mean, they should have start and end dates or something. Well,
But
whatever. I mean,
that
that's
is
the
what
time
they have,
interval.
right? I mean,
yeah,
that,
okay,
that
fine.
those
All
two
right, okay.
Tony, what's the actual things that are connected to the time interval property source type? I mean, it's a start date and an end date, right?
Exactly.
Or some
yeah.
other set of properties.
And that time instant is just the degenerate time interval.
I'm sorry,
Like-
say it again. What?
So if start and end date coincide, we
Yeah,
have
okay,
just a
fine.
date. Yeah.
Fine, but the
Or
point
something
here
like
is,
structure as a property source type could be some set of properties that are like height, architects, construction start date, construction, and the set of things that are common to things that are man-made structures.
okay, I don't think this is the right naming. I don't think this is the right setup. I mean, this is saying, this is basically things that have a certain bank of time-related properties. That's what you're.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then how is this then used?
Yeah.
How do I get the start time for a military conflict from the property source type?
You mean the military conflict as a type? It doesn't have a start date.
Really?
The entities of military conflict have a start date.
No, I understand. I understand. But I'm asking you, how do I use this property source type?
Okay, so maybe I started the presentation in the wrong order. A user would start with the entity class. They wouldn't even see the property source type symbol unless they are pretty curious about our ontology. They would just use entity classes or say, give me things that started in year minus 4000. And now we have a representation for that. So those property source types mostly appear in some useful position in entity classes or properties. And property source types are just a way to model that, keep track of the hierarchy.
No, this wasn't a good explanation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Look, what we're trying to do is knit together certain properties in common between certain types of entities. True statement or not?
Yes.
The goal, knit together, properties in common across different types of entities. Okay, will those properties always have the same name? Like start date, will that always be the same name, start date?
I think that's what Tony's been wanting to enforce here, yes.
Okay, so for
Right.
example,
Or
the
wait,
sun.
sorry. I could be misspeaking. Am I wrong, Tony, that
I'm still
they could
wondering
be
about the
named
question.
differently?
What?
I'm still wondering about the question.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the question. Okay, so I want to say entity property of star, for example, comma, start date. When is the sun from? Okay, that's a time, right? The sun has a time interval. It's going to live 10 billion years. It's 4 points, whatever, 6 point whatever billion years old. As opposed to the Beatles, who had a start date and an end date. That's a bit nearer at hand. So do you imagine that any time interval associated with a thing will be associated with properties start date and end date?
Yes.
I'm not sure that's right, but yes, okay. So for example, if there was, start date probably should have been called start time if it has the possibility that it's kind of a moment in time. It's like this plane
Correct.
flight starts this hour and arrives 2 hours later. Okay, but so what you have in mind is across all our properties, of which there are, 1,000 or something? I don't know how many properties there are across all our entities. You're knitting a bunch of those together. So do you have a picture of that knitting that you want to achieve?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm asking? Where is it?
So a little bit up, we have the current picture, the oval blob here. So the orange dots are the collections of properties that we identified, so to speak. We see
Okay,
time.
but what we're doing then is we're identifying collections of properties which are in common. We're not identifying individual properties which are in common. We're deciding that we're going to instead identify collections of properties that are in common because
Yes.
because we're trying to shoehorn this into types, which I don't think is going to work, right? Because really the point is there is a property like start date or like discoverer, let's say. Okay, a music act could have a discoverer as well, being a bit silly, but not completely, right? The question is, we've got a name, a string that represents a property. That string has the same name. The question is, could there be a property that actually isn't, quotes, the same thing, but has the same name?
Yes, there are. And that's also motivation here.
Well, maybe we should just change those. Maybe that's the mistake.
Yeah.
What's an example?
Maybe an abstract example is coordinates. In some sense, most domains you refer to coordinates on geocoordinates, and there might be one property where it's something related to coordinate systems. But
No,
you're right.
That's no. You're making a mistake here. Let me remind you of something, okay? We're building a computational language which is a precise specification of things. Natural language has total messiness that we've had to deal with in Wolfram Alpha. The thing we are not doing is putting a wrapper around the garbage of natural language. We get to decide this thing to us means this very particular thing, right? When we have the function plus in our language, it means addition of certain kinds. It does not mean, a plus size, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we do not want to make that mistake. Just because the name is used it's not, don't wrap natural language. That's not what we're doing.
Maybe we can see it from the other way around. If we look at the two population properties, let's say in city and country, at the moment, we don't know whether they are the same, looking just at them, because they are different objects. They have different
I
first
know,
arguments.
but I'm trying to get you to focus on the point. If we have the population, and every time we use the property name population, it means something which is the same thing across those different areas, then wouldn't we have solved the problem?
You mean the string population or the full entity
Yes,
property?
I mean, no, I mean the string population. If
Okay.
we just make the rule that we disambiguate property names, that when we say population, we mean that same thing, population, and it applies across all entity types. Are we
Yes.
trying to solve some weird corner case where we're trying to wrap natural language for things like coordinates, which might mean a different thing in different cases? Because if that's the case, this is a big mistake.
No, that's not the motivation. The motivation is that the string is just a short form for entity properties. And
Well, that's the way we've designed it, right?
Yes.
We've designed it
that's
so
good.
that string opens up into an entity property which identifies its entity type.
Yes.
Right? And you're saying,
but
go ahead.
It can go to different entity properties, even so if conceptually it's the same kind of population.
What?
So a string population translates to a full form entity property depending on context, and those full forms are different. Yeah. So one string.
But they mean the same thing. They mean they are different. Those actual symbolic forms are different, but they're supposed to mean the population, the same conceptual object for different types of things, cities, countries, whatever.
Yes. And we're trying to make that syntactically visible. Yeah.
Why do we need to do that? I mean, it's the same string population. Why isn't it obvious it's the same?
Well, if we make an effort to disambiguate all properties by string name, that's fine. Then we have solved a problem. Yes.
Let's figure out how difficult that is to do. Why don't you come back and tell us what issues there are in doing that? Okay. And similarly, on these entity types of not having to have this crazy stuff that took you God knows how long to figure out what it was for this. Okay. Let's figure out how many problems we have in just allowing these, whatever we're calling these, what are these being called? These are just entity types. Are they bird? What is bird to us?
A child type.
Okay, well, I want to know what do we blow up if all child types are entity types? Okay. I mean, it might not work, but I'd like to know what that story is. And certainly this crazy thing going all the way down like this makes absolutely no sense. I mean, how could that ever make sense? Because we have 6 different kinds of birds. One of them is in the archaea, or what? What's the answer to this? I don't understand. Why did we think this made sense? I mean, how could you ever need all this stuff to disambiguate this?
So this is a general mechanism that works both for our built-in entities as well as custom
So we're
entities.
trying to do relational databases. That's
No,
basically what you're saying. I mean, you're saying that this is something that, I mean, we can just tell people it has to be unique. It doesn't need to have this giant chain to be unique. Okay, look, I think we've got some, we got to wrap this meeting. We've got some homework here. Okay, let's figure out what are our current problems in disambiguating by string name. Okay, first thing. Second thing, I think, I mean, I'm hopeful that the whole structure you've built, you know, just gets resyntaxed and then just works. I think what you have here is super confusing, and I mean, I'm certainly confused. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I just don't think this is right. I don't think this is the right thing. You know, we're completely confusing a, you know, what did you have here? A time interval? No. Okay, let's just see what it takes to see whether we can simply make it be the case that every property string, you know, means the same thing across the places it's used. That's the first step. And you come back with what are the horrible ambiguities from that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I understand that we need a notion. I don't understand why we need a notion of something which is a hierarchy above a collection of things, other than, I mean, I'm not understanding that. I'm sorry. I'm just not understanding what the use of this is. Other than because we're trying to shoehorn things into relational stuff with types and so on, which I think is a mistake. All right. I'm sorry. This is, I'm,
Or how about interpreter? If you want to interpret a couple of words that are of type geo-region, right now you have to write a long list of alternatives, collect all of the geo-like things for yourself. Then you can just type geo-region. So we do the curation for the user.
well, we have location. We just have a location concept.
Mhm.
Um,
So this generalizes this to all kinds of types in the entity world.
we need to come back to this. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I feel a little better that the time you showed this to me before, when I, you know, said I just can't understand it and concentrate. I am not distracted. I am awake, but I still don't understand it. So I feel better that I didn't understand it before, which is not a helpful thing. But Alan, do you want to make any further comments at this stage?
No, we can come back to it. I mean, I don't think that the names of things are best. I think that the underlying goal here of being able to query across types that we've identified, but in some cases are just as arbitrary as anything else, the way that
Yeah,
we've tried to cluster things, we would like to be more flexible in being able to
I agree with that.
compute across
Let's look
the
at the
space of
base
things
case
and
first.
be able to build out with a little more freedom than we have been to date.
I agree. Let's look at the base case first. And
Sure.
let's see where that goes wrong. And Tony, I just want to reemphasize again, don't make the mistake of thinking that we're wrapping natural language. We're using natural language as the anchor on which we are building our own language.
Yeah,
See what I'm saying?
I fully agree. So those entities are the anchor of all knowledge, and that's the main goal. No.
Yes, yes. Okay. And also, I would really like to know next time we do this, okay? What are the things, what are the problems we're trying to solve here? Because it's been a little bit muddy here, what the problems are. I mean, Alan mentioned another thing, which is the ability for us to extend to, you know, not just astronauts, but I don't know, mission controllers or something, and not feel like, oh my God, it's a huge step to add a new type there.
Right. There are other things with some of the existing types, because we have entities that are effectively the same things, but they live in multiple existing packlets, like buildings, museums, historical sites. The thing in the world is, there's effectively one thing on the planet, but it lives in 3 different entity types because it has those different
Okay, fine, but
facets.
can we list
It's been a
out
messy
these?
way of
Yeah, right.
handling
I
that.
get it. Can we, like Singapore, for example?
Sure.
City,
Yeah.
state,
So
country.
list. You want to.
I want a list of what problems we're trying to solve.
Good. That's a good way to organize this the next time.
Right. And okay. And let's look at the base case of kind of the simple things we could do, and then this thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Thanks, guys. Sorry I got a little bit heated about this. I'm just I want to understand.
It's complicated.
It's important we do it right. Okay. See y'all soon.
Thanks. Bye.